Zamfara State House of Assembly to prove former government over 2 billion naira new government house contract. President Muhammad Buhari says lockdown will last as long as necessary. IBB calls for intergovernmental synergy to defeat coronavirus. From business, oil pushes higher, but there are doubts about output curtail. And on the international scene, China's new coronavirus cases claim the 6-week high. Welcome to Standard Voice Television News. My name is Samira Ibrahim. Now the news in full. The Zamfara State House Assembly has said that it is investigating the former government over 2 billion naira contract for the construction of a new government house in Gusau, the state capital. Speaking at a special television interview with Standard Voice Television Gatasaray in Gusau, the Speaker of the House, Alhaji Nasir Ma'azu Magaria, said the House is probing the former governor to ascertain the whereabouts of 2 billion naira released in the name of constructing a new government house in the state capital, Gusau. Alhaji Nasir Ma'azu Magaria explained that neither the site nor the contractor has been cited since the award of the contract, despite the release of the contract money. He explained that the House under his leadership has already set up a committee to investigate this transaction and report back to the House their findings and recommendations for necessary actions, assuring the people of the state that the alleged 2 billion naira must be recovered from the former governor for utilization in the execution of developmental projects that has direct bearing to the lives of the people in the state. The Speaker also explained that as part of their mandate commitment, this desire and passion to assist the present administration to deliver to the public, the State Assembly repealed the pension law for the former governors, their deputies and speakers immediately after its inauguration. Alhaji Magaria said shady provisions for unjustifiable payment of billions of naira was made in the law, which allows the stealing of the state migratory funds, despite the financial incapacitation of the state. The Speaker of Zamfara State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Nasir Ma'azu Magaria, has called on well-to-do in the state to come forward with their donations to the Committee on COVID-19 in order to ameliorate the sufferings of the poor in these hard times. Honorable Nasir Ma'azu Magaria, who is also the chairman of the committee, made the call on Sunday in a Standard Voice television program, Gatasaray. He said, although the committee is in the receipt of some donations from a few individuals of the state, such donations were grossly inadequate. The Speaker, who noted that the COVID-19 is real and a serious disaster around the globe, which has compelled many people to stay at home, needs such palliatives that will cushion the effect on citizens. The ongoing lockdown in the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos and Ogun states may continue for as long as necessary, President Muhammad Buhari hinted. The lockdown may even be extended to more states as the total confirmed cases in the country reached 318 as of Sunday night. Governor Willie Obiano of Anambra State has on his own ordered the state to be shut immediately. He said violators of the lockdown will be arrested. His Kano State counterpart, Dr. Abdullah Umar Ganduje, directed tricycle operators in the state to carry only one passenger for now, following the infection in the state. A 75-year-old man described as a retired ambassador. President Buhari, in a statement on Saturday by his special assistant on media and publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, made a fresh appeal to Nigerians to endure the harsh realities of some of the conditions imposed in the fight against coronavirus. He said all countries of the world are currently fighting for their own survival, and Nigeria's help will come from no other country but from Nigerians themselves. While appreciating Nigerians for their understanding so far, he warned that the current lockdown in part of the country might be extended. The original 14-day lockdown in the FCT, Lagos and Ogun State should have ended on Tuesday. Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma has begun distribution of relief materials and food items to the 27 local government areas of the state. Governor Uzodinma urged chairman of the Interim Management Committee of Local Government to liaise with political appointees and ensure that the items got to the vulnerable and less privileged. The governor warned that any act of greed or attempt to share the items to the wrong people will be sanctioned. He gave the council a template for the distribution and promised to monitor compliance. The governor called on members of the committee to be honest in the distribution and give the people what is meant for the people, and what is meant for the leaders is meant for the leaders. The governor advised them to remove any sign of greed, no matter how small. This is your first test, the governor said. Chairman of Oru West Willie Okoliogo assured Governor Uzodinma they will follow the template. He promised they will be formidable partners of the government in the fight against COVID-19. Each council got rice, noodles, groundnut oil, tomato paste, yam, among others, and 100,000 naira. Senator Ahmed Makarfi has donated assorted food items to residents of Daura in Katsina State as part of measures to cushion the effect of the lockdown order on the local government. News Agency of Nigeria, NAN, reports that the state government imposed a stay-at-home order with effect from Saturday, April 11, after a medical doctor died of the coronavirus pandemic in the area. Governor Aminu Masari, who announced the order on Friday in Katsina, said that the wife of the deceased and his 2 children had tested positive for the disease. Alhaji Babba Kaita's gesture was routed through the state chairman for local government and chieftaincy affairs, Alhaji Umar Gwajo. Alhaji Umar Gwajo, in a brief speech, said that the gesture was targeted at making life easier for the poor during the lockdown period. Male Ibrahim Rabi, one of the beneficiaries who spoke with NAN shortly after receiving his share of the food items, thanked the lawmaker for the gesture. He expressed happiness for the gesture and called on other political leaders and rich people to emulate this kindness. Its chairman, Alhaji Abdul Karim Sirika, the State Information Commissioner, who led the team, said that its mission was to monitor the level of compliance with the lockdown order. Alhaji Sirika expressed satisfaction with the level of compliance, urging the people to also adhere to the other medical directives on social distancing, regular washing of hands, and ensure proper hygiene. He added that only shops that deal on essential products were permitted to open for business. He warned traders against taking advantage of the period to increase the prices of commodities. The Emir of Daura, Alhaji Umar Faruk, in a remark, urged the residents to be patient and comply with government's sit-at-home directive. He thanked the Katsina State government for the quick response aimed at containing the disease and halting its spread in the state. Former military President Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida has called for synergy between the federal and the state governments to fight COVID-19. The former president also threw his support for the enforcement of social distancing prescribed by the federal and state government. In a statement signed by the former president, he said these preventive and precautionary measures will further prevent the spread of the pandemic. General Babangida, retired, said it is time for synergy between federal government efforts and the states, and that of the state where the majority of citizens live, with attendant implications for planting the curve, increasing testing capacity, and reduce the pains. And we have the lesson of experience of China, Taiwan, and other countries to benefit from. There is no room for blame games now, but concerted support by all Nigerians, and he commended the professionalism displayed and wonderful effort of the frontline medical personnel for their patriotism, resilience, sacrifice, and commitment to the fight of eradicating COVID-19 in the country. Commending the effort of the state and federal government at managing the spread of the pandemic across Nigeria, General Babangida stressed on the need for the gains to be sustained. Although the numbers keep rising, the situation is still being kept at manageable levels within the limits of our health care system. He said the gains need to be sustained with the enforcement of appropriate and consistent social distancing prescription for effective prevention of the further spread of the pandemic. He then called on the Christians to use the Easter period to pray for the country to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, while urging the Muslims to use the month preceding the month of Ramadan to pray fervently for mercy and reprieve in the circumstances the nation and the world are currently facing. The governor of Cross River State, Professor Ben Ayede, has directed all civil servants from grade level 10 and above to resume work from Tuesday, April 14, 2020. This is part of new orders issued by the governor as the state continues in measures to ensure that the COVID-19 pandemic doesn't spread into the state. Civil servants of lower grade level will remain at home for another 2 weeks, just as the new directives also noted that all entry and exit points, air, land, and water into the state hereby remain closed for a further 2 weeks. Other directives issued by the governor include the following. The no mask, no movement policy is still in full force. All returning civil servants are to receive nose masks from the COVID-19 response task force through their respective permanent secretaries. All nose masks to be used in the state must be locally made, with the place of origin clearly marked. The sale of masks made by the Cross River State Garment Factory is prohibited. Masks are to be distributed free of charge. For any emergency evacuation by air, a certification by the National Headquarters of National Center for Disease Control (NCDC) is required. Even so, the pilots are prohibited from stepping out of the aircraft. Nobody is allowed in public places such as market, shopping malls, sport arena, banks, etc. without the correct use of appropriate nose masks. Mass gatherings of all kinds such as worship, weddings, burial, etc. remain prohibited. Defaulters will be prosecuted in accordance with the relevant provision of the Cross River State Epidemic and Pandemic Law 2020. Former First Lady Patience Jonathan has struck a deal to release her 200-bed hotel as COVID-19 isolation and treatment center. The Abuja hotel, which is believed to be worth about 2 billion naira, is under interim for future, secured by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) at the court on April 30, 2018. The former First Lady, it was learned, struggled the deal with the First Lady Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, which led to her release of the hotel under litigation for use by the government at a critical time. The First Lady, through her pet project, the Future Assured program, entered into spread agreement with Mrs. Jonathan and the Ministry of Health to convert the hotel into a COVID-19 treatment center. Mrs. Buhari made an offer to the Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Ihanire, to equip it as a treatment center to international standard. Although the hotel will be formally handed over to the Minister of Health on Monday, it will be managed by the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) COVID-19 Committee. The Future Assured program is providing facilities like water, furniture, beddings, fitting, and modern health equipment used to manage COVID-19 cases. It was gathered that the deal between the First Lady and her predecessor was struck at a recent meeting by the duo at the presidential villa. A source quoted Mrs. Jonathan as saying, "This is the time we must all come together, irrespective of political differences, to assist this nation to fight the pandemic. It is time to shun politics." The former First Lady said she will do everything to help this great country that has also given her the opportunity to serve. Investigation revealed that the First Lady decided to collaborate with Mrs. Jonathan to avoid the Future Assured program running into any illegal crisis. The Lagos State government has partnered with construction giant Julius Berger plc, to embark on the additional disinfection and fumigation of some major roads in the state as part of efforts to curtail the spread of coronavirus in the state. Speaking at the kick-off of the exercise at Edo bus stop at the weekend, the Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tunji Bello, said the gesture from Julius Berger plc underscores the determination of the present administration to secure the lives of residents. He added that the state government will continue to adopt measures to ensure the COVID-19 pandemic does not spread in the state and means of community transmission is curtailed. The Ogun State Police Command said it has arrested 150 suspects in connection with the resurgence of robberies, burglaries, and cult violation in some parts of Ifo and Ado-Oda Ota local government areas of the state. The arrest followed complaints by residents of Awode, Ilepa, Ifo, Aribajo, Itori, Dalemo, Ijoko, Joju, Sango Ota, in Ifo, Abado, Ijaye, among other communities. In Ifo and Ado, Odo, Ota local government areas of the state over the spate of robberies and cult clashes allegedly perpetrated by the suspects. Rattled by suspect audacity with which they held the affected councils in terror, Governor Dapo Abiodun vowed to ensure that the law deals ruthlessly with any of them found culpable, irrespective of person's background, threatening to make haste in signing death warrant for any sentence to death. The Commissioner of Police, Kenneth Abramson, who took reporters around the troubled councils after parading the 150 suspects, refuted the claims that robbers had taken over Ifo and Ado, Odo, Ota areas of Ogun State. Addressing reporters at the Ifo Divisional Police Station, Abramson said there was no report of robbery to the command by anyone living in the embattled councils. The Commissioner of Police said it was a case of cult clashes among several rival groups within the areas as a result of the killing of one of them, explaining that the command responded to the emergency by deploying men from Special Anti-Robbery Squad, Anti-Cult Unit, Anti-Kidnapping Unit, Special Forces and conventional policemen were drawn from the area commands in Ifo and Ota respectively. CP Abramson explained that his men smoked the suspected criminals out of their hideout and recovered various weapons. The police boss identified 7 rival cult groups, which included Elena Boys, Federal Boys, Lemon Boys, Base Boys, Sahara Boys, Bese Boys, and Marindoti Boys, as responsible for the disturbances in Ifo and Ado, Odo, Ota areas. Governor Abiodun commended the State Police Command for its swiftness and prompt adherence to directive of the state government to flush out those turning the sit-at-home order to a criminal enterprise. He further enjoined all other relevant agencies to immediately of the same and of their intelligence gatherings mechanism to ensure that there is no reoccurrence of the criminal act, especially as the state continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back on Business. Over to Rita.
Hello, welcome to Standard Voice Business Update. Oil prices rose after top producers agreed to massive output cuts, but gains were capped as doubts grew about whether the move was enough to stabilize coronavirus ravaged energy market. U.S. benchmark West 1000's intermediate was up about 5% at $23.94 a barrel in Asia afternoon trade, after earlier rallying almost 8%. Brent crude, the international benchmark, also fell slightly from an early strong rally to trade 4.2% higher at $32.83 a barrel. While the prices were healthy, they were limited compared to the double-digit jumps and falls of recent weeks, with analysts concerned that there will still be massive oversupply in the market as the viral pandemic struck demand. OPEC producer dominated by Saudi Arabia and allies, led by Russia, threshed out a compromise deal after Morocco had backed at an early agreement struck on Friday. The video conference summit agreed to a cut of 9.7 million barrels per day from May, according to Mexican Energy Minister Rossonali, down straightly from 10 million barrel reduction earlier. OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Barkido called the cut historic, and the agreement agreed to mark an end to a bitter price war between Riyadh and Moscow. Oil markets have been in turmoil for weeks as lockdowns and travel restrictions imposed to combat the outbreak battered demand, while the Saudi-Russian row compounded the crisis. But analysts were left disappointed at a cut that will go nowhere near to making up for the unexpected demand loss due to the pandemic, forecast at anywhere between 15 and 30 million barrels a day. And that's all on Standard Voice Business Update. I'm Rita.
And on the international scene, China reported the highest number of new coronavirus cases in nearly 6 weeks on Monday, as the country tried to prevent a second wave of COVID-19 infections. Authorities counted 108 new coronavirus infections over the past day, including 98 cases among travelers returning from abroad, according to the National Health Commission. This is the highest number of reported infections since March 6th, when authorities counted 143 new cases. China is focusing its effort on preventing the second wave of coronavirus infections, especially among Chinese citizens returning from abroad. Beijing on Monday, March 28, banned the entry of foreigners into China. However, state media has reported that travelers crossing the borders from Russia are spreading the coronavirus in the Chinese border city of Svtv in the northeastern Heilongjiang province. Among 300 cases of the coronavirus had been confirmed in the city by Saturday, including 100 infected people who did not appear to be showing any symptoms. The spike in locally transmitted infections come after authorities had reported a string of this with no such new cases in late March. A new cluster of infections is also feared in the southern metropolis of Gaojiang in Guangdong province. CNN reported on Saturday that the African community in Gaojiang was being targeted amid prevention efforts. Africans in the city have reportedly been evicted from their homes and turned away from hotels, even if they haven't traveled abroad recently. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said in a statement late on Sunday that it expected local authorities in Guangzhou to reject all racist and discriminatory remarks. China has so far reported 82,160 coronavirus cases, including 3,341 deaths and 77,663 recovered patients. That has been the news from Standard Voice Television. And the news, a quick look at the major headlines. Zamfara State House of Assembly to prove former government over 2 billion naira new government house contract. President Muhammadu Buhari says lockdown will last as long as necessary. IBB calls for intergovernmental synergy to defeat coronavirus. From business, oil pushes higher, but there are doubts about output curtail and on the international scene. China's new coronavirus cases climbed to 6-week high. That's the news. On behalf of the production crew, head of news and current affairs, I am Samira Ibrahim, wishing you a pleasant time. Keep watching Standard First Television News.